This video will begin a study of the book of Esther, beginning with an overview. Esther is not very widely taught, and in the Hebrew version, there's no mention of God's name. It was not allowed when the canon was formed, when they had the Great Synagogue. It was allowed at the Council of Trent, which happens in the 1500s. Interestingly, Mordecai and Esther are not mentioned anywhere else in the Bible, and Jesus does not mention Esther or Mordecai. However, he does mention Daniel, who was alive at this time. Some scholars point out that there are many literary devices, conversation that'll move the plot along, exaggerations, reversals, and such. This would have been time period 486 to 465 BC. At that time, Ezra had already carried a wave of pilgrims back to their homeland in Judea, and then a second wave, which included Nehemiah. Of course, they rebuilt the temple and the wall. Daniel would have been in Shushan at this time. There is no mention of him, of Mordecai or Esther by Daniel. Esther's name means a star or a bright star, and the Hebrew name may mean hidden. And there, as you will see as we move through this, that God's name is hidden in acrostics in this text 5 times. So God has put a thumbprint on this book, and we have to trust that the Lord would have put us a book together that would be important for us to know. So, who did write it? We really do not know. It was written in the 2nd or 3rd century BC. It is thought by scholars. And we'll have to know that the Persians worshipped a single god. And as we'll move in, we'll see Mordecai give a genealogy that won't hold. And the Talmud claims that Mordecai knew 70 languages. And if we take that to be the 70 in Genesis 10, he'd be over 400 years old. The Rabbinical Literate, Volume 1, page 179, declares Esther to be the mother of Cyrus. That is not true. His mother is Mendane, and her father was the last Babylonian king. They are going to have a feast in here, Purim, from the Persian word pur, which meant to cast lots, much merrymaking. And today it is a festival that is celebrated. It's very Persian in color, in the way that in which it is written, and you will see that they're going to claim that they were in the original captivity. Well, that was 597, so Mordecai and Esther would be 100 to 120 years old. So let us look at verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this is Ahasuerus, which reigned over from India even unto Ethiopia, over 127 provinces, 127 provinces. But Daniel does say that there were 120. And he was, as I said, also in this palace. Verse 2, that in those days when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the palace, 3, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces being before him. So he's having a feast. Now, verse 4. When he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty many days, even 180 days. This is a party that lasts 6 months. And when those days were expired, the king made a feast unto all the people that were present in Shushan, this palace, both unto the great and small, 7 days in the court of the garden of the king's palace. So he's going to extend this long feast by an extra week. Now, Daniel was a favorite of the king Darius in this time period, but he doesn't seem to have been invited to this magnificent feast. He is not mentioned. 6, where were white, green, and blue hangings fastened with cords of fine linen and purple to silver rings, and pillars of marble. The beds were of gold and silver upon a pavement of red and blue and white and black marble. A very fancy place. 7, and they gave them to drink in vessels of gold, the vessels being diverse one from another, and royal wine in abundance, according to the state of the king. So if you could think, melt down gold and form a mold to make a drinking cup, and every cup was different. Now we learn in Jeremiah that the Kenites won't drink. Now you're going to see this is a wine drinking party. 8, and the drinking was according to the law, none did compel. For so the king had appointed to all the officers of his house that they should do according to every man's pleasure. So one could drink whatever they, how much or however much they wished. Verse 7. Yes, and those drinking cups were all very different. 8. This an account of this feast is missing in history. It's not accounted for anywhere but right here. 8, and the drinking was, we did that. 9, also Vashti the queen made a feast for the women to the royal house which belonged to King Ahasuerus. 10, on the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Hiztha, Harbona, Bigtha, and Abagtha, Zethar, and Carcas, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king. These are the chamberlains. And he is going to send for his wife to bring Vashti, the queen, before the king with the crown royal, to show the people in the palaces her beauty, for she was fair to look upon. So he's had 7 chamberlains. They've had a 7-day drunk, and he sent for his wife. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him. He is very mad that this woman has refused, and that itself would have been very out of character for this time period and this culture. 13. Then the king said to the wise men which knew the names, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew the law and judgment. And he is going to send again for the queen. 14. And the next unto him was Shachina, Shethar, Amatha, Tarshish, Meres, Marsina, and Memushan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, which sat the first in the kingdom. These are the very top dogs in the kingdom. 15. What shall we do unto the queen Vashti or Vashti, depending on how the critics in your Bible, according to the law, because she hath not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlains? 16. And Memushan answered before the king and the princes, Vashti the queen hath not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes and to all the people that are in the provinces of the king Ahasuerus. She has not obeyed. She is setting an example, and wives everywhere will follow. I will not come if I do not wish to, if I am called. 16. And we just did that. All the provinces. She has set an example. 17. For this deed of the queen come abroad unto all women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes when it shall be reported. The king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not. Terrible example. 18. Likewise shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king's princes which have heard of the deed of the queen, thus shall there arise much contempt and wrath. So we're going to get a great deal of problems and between husbands and wives. 19. If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before the king Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she. So you see, the queen is about to be dethroned. 20. And when the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout all his empire, for it is great. All the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both to great and small. So when this happens, if you don't come when the husband's called, you can be replaced. 21. And the saying pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Memucan. 22, to conclude this first chapter. For he sent letters unto all the king's provinces, 127, remember? Unto every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language. And every man should bear rule in his own house, that it should be published according to the language of every people. 120 provinces, and they say 127, and it published in front of all. Well, there is in this verse, there is an acrostic in the Hebrew, Yahweh. So we see the very first place where God's thumbprint is on this book. Chapter 2. Actually, the king's decree that was published throughout all the empire, that is the verse that contains that acrostic. I made a mistake in aligning it to the very last one. Chapter 2. I apologize for that mistake. That is the first time that God's name appears. If it were in the Hebrew, those letters YVH, the Yahweh consonants, would have been in all caps. In some cases in the book of Esther, that acrostic is backwards. An acrostic, it would be like a sentence that would contain, for example, if we had the name Robert, we would have a sentence and all of those letters would be capitalized and would be used in the sentence, and therefore that name hidden. Chapter 2. After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti, and what she had done and what was decreed against her. Oh boy, now he's sobered up. 2. Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king. 3. And let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan the palace, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Hegai, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their things for purification be given to them. Of course, Hegai would have been in the Hebrew, that he would have been the head eunuch, Hebrew name. 4, and let the maidens which pleaseth the king be queen instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so. 5. Now in Shushan the palace there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite. Now that simply won't hold. If that genealogy were true and he traces back to Kish, he would be a good 800 years old. Do you see the exaggeration and the fiction that is in this book? 6. Who had been carried away from Jerusalem, which the captivity had been carried away, with Jeconiah, the king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. Well, he was carried away back in when? 597? Well, he's going to be old. He's going to be old. He's not going to be a young man if he came during the time of the captivity. Once again, fictionalized, it does not hold. Verse 7. And he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. And the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter. So he's taken her in as a daughter. And of course, she came during the Babylonian captivity, quite a number of years, a century before the time here. 8. So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan, the palace, to the custody of Hegai, that Esther was brought unto the king's house, to the custody of Hegai, keeper of the women. Once again, a eunuch. So she's been brought up by the head eunuch. 9. And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her the things for purification, such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens which were meet to be given her out of the king's house, and he preferred her and her maids unto the best place of the house of the women. So she is going to be housed in the very best place where the women reside. 11. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the women's house, to know how Esther did and what should become of her. Of course, he's outside in the court. He cannot go in because he is not a eunuch. 12. Now when every maid's turn was come to go in to King Ahasuerus, after that she had been 12 months according to the manner of the women, for so were the days of their purification accomplished, to wit, 6 months with oil of myrrh, 6 months with sweet odors, and with other things for the purifying of the women. Oh, well, now she's going to be another year older. She's already 100 plus, if you believe she came in the Babylon captivity. It's what the manuscript said. Verse 13. Then thus came every maiden unto the king. Whatsoever she desired was given her, to go with her out of the house of the women unto the king's house. Every maiden. 14. In the evening she went, and on the morrow she returned to the second house of the women, to the custody of Sheashgaz, the king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines, She came in unto the king no more, except the king delighted in her that she were called by name. So now she is back in the second house where the concubines are kept after her tryout before the king. Verse 15. Now when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go in to the king, she inquired nothing but what Haggai, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her. She asked for nothing extra. 16. So Esther was taken unto the king Ahasuerus into his house royal in the 10th month, which is the month Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. 18. Then the king made a great feast unto all his princes and his servants, even Esther's feast. And he made a release to the provinces and gave gifts according to the state of the king. In other words, how much wine had he drunk? 19. And when the virgins were gathered together the second time, then Mordecai sat in the king's gate. Now, here he is in the king's gate, and he would be in a very honored place. And if we read the book of Daniel, we learn that Daniel was over everything and favored. 20. Esther had not yet showed her kindred nor her people, as Mordecai had charged her, for Esther did the commandment of Mordecai like as when she was brought with him. Verse 22. And the king was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen, and Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. So she has told it in Mordecai's name. And when inquisition was made of the matter, let's back up to verse 21. In those days, in those days when King Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlain, Bigthan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were wroth and had sought to lay hands on the king. I apologize, I skipped that verse. It's important because you had two persons here who were about to slay the king. 22, to resume in the order. And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen, and Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. So Mordecai said it was so, and Esther said it was so. And now 23 to complete chapter 2. And when inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out. Therefore they were both hanged on a tree, and it was written in the book of Chronicles before the king. Oh, really? It's not in the Chronicles anywhere that can be found. This concludes our study today. This has been brought to you as an outreach of the Essex Methodist Church in Essex, Missouri, and the Crossroads Global Methodist Church in Dexter, Missouri.